Hi, my name is Rose Mock, and I live in Northwest Ohio. Welcome to my apiary. We call this apiary Bainbridge Bees because we live on Bainbridge. I have a very small apiary. I only have two hives at this moment. I have an Italian hive, and new this year we have a Russian hive. Neither of these hives overwintered. They are both brand new packages. I'd like to show you over here to the Italians. Um, these guys have exploded so much that I didn't even have time to paint the two new supers that we put on. This hive is split and swarmed on two different occasions, and it's just the population is incredible. This hive is the Russian hive, and I've been struggling with this since the day that I installed this package. And I believe that part of the reason I've struggled with this particular hive is that it was shipped. And I got it later in the season, like toward the ends of May. The Italians I picked up in my car in southern Ohio and transported them here myself. I think that by transporting them in that fashion, it cuts down on how much the bees are impacted by all the exterior things that come with shipping. And so I think that that's part of the reason why this hive has thrived, and also they had the benefit of very early nectar and pollen flow. Bees need nectar and pollen because they need nectar. Nectar is a carbohydrate, and that gives them energy. It also is what they make honey with. They must have honey in order to make wax. The bees that create wax consume a tremendous amount of honey. The protein is the pollen, and they need pollen for the brood so that they can feed the hive. And also they need those components to make royal jelly in the event that they need to create their own queen. So that hive, the Italians had a tremendous benefit early on. This hive has not. The purpose of this inspection today is to determine if they've accepted the new queen. This is the second time I've requeened this hive. And I believe that they have accepted it, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But my purpose of this is to just A, make sure that they've accepted the queen, B, to see if she's laying, and C, to see what ages of brood we have, and then determine if there's any other interventions that need to happen either today or in the very near future. Now, today is August 21st. It's a nice warm summer day in Ohio. Our temperature here is very much like Ithaca, New York. We have very similar foliage, very similar animals and pests. My apiary is wonderful because it's located right between an arboretum. We have a country club right behind me. We have a metro park right over there down the street. And my favorite part of the neighborhood is the organic greenhouse, which is about, 500 yards away. In fact, when I go to that greenhouse, I often see bees foraging, and I'm thinking they're probably mine. So that's a real bonus. Another real bonus is there's some ditches and there's a river about a half a mile away, and we have ditches. The bees love that type of water. They like dirty water because of all the minerals and things that's in it. And there's tons of trees, and since this is a very old neighborhood with all of these big trees, there's tons of pine resin and things for the bees to find and make propolis. And it's not too wet, and my yard is, on a slope into the ditch, and I have the hives sloped so that if it rains a lot, it doesn't retain a lot of moisture. Now, some of the negative aspects of this apiary is it is in a neighborhood. I do have neighbors, and at least one of my neighbors lost their mind when they found out that we were getting bees, and so it took some compassion, some empathy, and some education to explain to them that my bees really don't want you. They don't want anything to do with you, and they've experienced wasps, and we have to teach these people the differences between the insects, and when they understand, they become more acceptable. And I think that's really one of the roles of a beekeeper, is to educate the general population as to the benefits of bees, and educating them on the differences of the types of flying insects. Now, some of the negative aspects of this apiary, as I indicated, is it's in a neighborhood, and I think the biggest negative aspect is it's in Ohio. Bees are not native to this continent. The biggest struggle we have as beekeepers, or bee has rather, is to survive the winter. And that is the biggest challenge that we have in Northwest Ohio. And we are at the end of summer now, and things are going to be winding down in this hive, and we're going to be starting hive prep for winter. It's 2026 right now, but the 2027 year starts now, because very soon the queen will start making winter bees. Winter bees are different than summer bees. Summer bees only live about 6 weeks. Winter bees start to being produced in August, October, August, September, that area, and the winter bees will last 4 to 5 months, and the goal is to have them, when you open your hive up in the spring, you have bees left and you don't have to start over, and that's the goal. But the best way to make that happen is to make sure you have a healthy hive now before you go into winter. So some of the things that I like to stand back and look at the hive for a little while and watch the bees come in and out. I like to see what they're foraging. Right now there's a dearth, and so I will not want to leave the hive open for very long because I don't want to invite robbers. Right now we only have like Shasta daisies blooming, lavender is still blooming, we have some begonias. Pretty soon the goldenrod will come in, and that will be really nice for the bees, but right now it's real limited with what they have as far as for pollen and nectar. I've elected to feed this hive with some sugar water because I know they're hungry and I know that there's a dearth. I keep a pretty good eye on it. It's in my backyard, so I can check on this hive every single day, and I do. I check on it more than once a day, and I've not seen any robbing activity, although I have seen lots of guard bees on the ledge. Now, watching them come in and out, I try and count how many bees have pollen on their legs. And if you see a lot of bees with pollen on their legs, that's often an indication that you're queen right. And that's the purpose of this inspection, to see if we're queen right. I do see some yellow pollen coming in. I don't think the goldenrod has started yet, but I'm not sure what the yellow is. But I do see some pollen coming in. Another thing I look for is I look on the ground to see if I see any dead bees or crawling bees, if any bees twitching about. I look for bees that have deformed wing virus or K-wing. Those are indications of what's going on inside of the hive. Everything that's happening outside of the hive will tell you what's going on inside of the hive if you know what to look for and you pay attention. Earlier today, before I started this video, I noticed that there was an orientation flight, and I noticed that about a week ago as well with this particular hive, and that makes me happy because if there's an orientation flight, that tells me we have bees that are transitioning from being nurse bees or heater bees, from working inside of the hive to about to become foragers. And so that transgression shows me, or that progression shows me, that we are more than likely queen right because of the orientation flight. I don't see any dead bees. I don't see anything crawling around. Another drawback of this apiary is the fact that we're kind of in a forest because of all the trees and all the arboretums and the wild metro parks. And so we do get a lot of skunks and rodents and raccoons. And so I like to check the bottom of the hive to make sure there's no scrape marks in front of it, to ensure that there's no predators that are bothering them. And so far I've not seen that since we've lived here and have been keeping bees, but if that occurs, I may put an electric fence up around them. Another thing I look for, this problem for us as well, is that sometimes we have wasps that come. The wasps are carnivores, they eat the bees, and an indication of that is if you see the bees, you only see half of a bee. Usually the thorax is missing and you see them moving their arms and their head, but they're missing half of their body. That is a sure sign that you have a wasp problem. And there's wasp traps and things available that catch wasps and not bees, and it's pretty cool. The first thing I like to do before I go into inspecting a hive, as I indicated, is I watch the front, and one of the things I'm going to look for is the fact that we have I don't know if you can see this, but we have a lot of guard bees on the ledge. Oh, there goes some pollen. There's some bright yellow, and there's some orange. So that's really good. And they look like little small bees. They're not very big, but there's a lot of bees on the ledge here. Let me just rub my finger here to see if this excites any of them. No, not yet. That's good. All right, so the first thing that I like to do is check the front, as they've indicated. That kind of helps me understand what to expect when I open the hive. And based on what I'm seeing in the front, I'm expecting to find the queen. And if I can't find the queen, I'm going to look for evidence of her. Evidence of the queen would be eggs, larvae, capped brood, and so we'll look for that. But the first thing I like to do is I like to check the bottom board. The bottom board will tell us a lot about the hive as well. And so this bottom board, I have small hive beetles. So I'm gonna kill these. So we have some small hive beetles in this hive, which is, that doesn't surprise me. I'm gonna scrape this off really quick. I see lots of cappings from the honey. I don't see any indications of varroa. But I did find some small hive beetles, and that's not good. Small hive beetles, if they really infect your hive, they'll ruin the honey. They lay eggs in the honey. It makes the honey slimy and unfit for human or bee consumption. So anyway, that's where I start. And the small hive beetles are a secondary pest. They're not a primary pest. What this tells me is the fact that I find small hive beetles, that this colony is a little weak. They don't come to a strong colony. So that tells me a lot there too. But I already knew that since I had to requeen this hive a second time. So now, make sure I get my smoker going again. So now I'm going to get in and start pulling the hive apart. We'll go through and discuss each aspect of it. Don't like to use a lot of smoke, but these Russians are a little cranky. The last time I was in here, they don't like to be bothered. So just give it a little puff there. And what I like to do is I have this blocks there that I'm going to use so that I don't have to put anything on the ground. So I have a queen excluder on. There's no chance that we're going to see a queen up here. You can probably put this over here in front of the hive. Now, this here is full of honey, it looks like. Let's take a look and see what we got. Now, there's 3 castes of bees in the hive. There's the queen, which is a diploid, or takes a fertilized egg to create a queen. There are female worker bees, which are also diploids, and then there are drones, which are the male bees, which are haploids, meaning that they are created by an unfertilized egg. So in this, we have lots of honey. They've been working on creating a bunch of cells here, and this is not full of honey, but it has quite a bit of honey. And if you see the age of the comb, this is brand new. I did not have the foresight of marking my um, frames with the year because I'm a newer beekeeper, but going forward I plan to put the year of my frame on the frame so that I can rotate the comb out every 3 years. It's good to rotate the comb because the comb can store pesticides, diseases. You want to be careful about taking old comb from one hive and putting it in another. You might be subjecting the new hive to unnecessary diseases or toxins. But some pesticides can be brought back to the hive by the foragers and can remain in the wax for years. And we don't want that. And so that's why it's important to know the age of your wax and the age of your frames. This one's full. This is loaded full of honey. And these are all newer frames. And these are all worker bees that we're looking at here. These are all female worker bees. There are no drones up here. They can't get through the queen excluder. So I'm going to take out one more. Let's see what we can discern. Yeah, this one they're starting to build out, but this is just an empty comb. So they have some room. Let me just do a quick count. And see, we have one empty. I need to determine if I need to add another box on here. That one's halfway. We have some Burcomb here. Let me check this one. Yeah, I don't know. This is getting pretty full. I might actually elect to add. I think they could use some more room. See all the bees festooning at the bottom. I love that. That's my favorite activity that they do, where they use each other's legs to climb across the hive. Yeah, so this is pretty full. I think we probably need to add another box in here. I brought one out just in case. I didn't think I was going to need it. So, but now after seeing this inside, so looks like it's stuck to the queen excluder. I'm gonna give them a quick smoke. I don't like to smoke them too much. Once you smoke bees, it takes them they quit making honey for at least a day. And at this time of year, they don't have time to quit making honey for a day. Okay, I'm gonna move this one over here. I'm gonna put this sideways so that I don't squish anybody. Now let's take a look at this. The queen could be under here. I'm gonna set that the same way so that I don't mix the bees up. I'm gonna give them a little smoke.
Minutes.
Thank you. Okay, now I'm gonna I don't know if I can. I'm gonna try and fit these. These things are handy for putting the frames on while you're working. Now, let's see what I have to be careful because we could run into the queen in here. But this is what I want. I'm going to grab the number 2 frame. That's usually where I start. Oh wow. I gotta be careful, the queen could be anywhere here. Christopher, can you bring the camera over here? There's all kinds of, so this is loaded full of, so yes, we have a queen. We've just confirmed that we have a queen. In fact, we have royal jelly, tons of royal jelly. This makes me so happy. Can you see all the royal jelly right there on the very first raised cone section? Second one is nectar, then pollen, and we have some honey, and then we have some cap brood, we have some larvae, and we have eggs. The eggs are, can you bring that over here? All right, can you get a good visual of all that different larvae? Now, let's talk about the different casts of bees that we see. All of these that I'm looking at, oh, there's a drone. There's a drone, he has the big eyeballs on the top of his head. And then you see that bee sticking her head down in there eating honey. She's probably a wax maker. And yeah, so yes, we have a queen, and that's what I wanted to know. And over here, Christopher, can you bring that over here? I found an egg. Found a patch of eggs over here. Okay, you can see it. There's an egg floating right there in royal jelly. Oh, he just ran over it. So yes, we have honey, pollen, and lots of capped brood